how do you want to do this? You want to talk about the mortgage thing first, or do you want to go through a couple of properties?
Um, I don't know, whatever, either one works. Like I'm excited to go through the mortgage stuff with you just so you can like I can check all these things with you and make sure that everything makes sense.
Okay.
And then
Sure, let's start with that then.
yeah, I haven't checked out the property. Cool. Yeah, so I had a conversation with a mortgage broker a couple days ago, and I had never really talked to one before in depth. So I learned quite a bit, which was exciting, and also pretty eye-opening. The first thing I learned was if you're self-employed, 2 years of tax returns, year of tax returns yet. So I couldn't even purchase a property right now if I wanted to. I have to wait for that second year to go through. Second thing is if you're paying less than 20% down, you'll need to get CMHC insurance. I don't know what CMHC stands for, to be honest, but it's calculated as a 4% premium on the total loan.
Yeah, so CMHC is Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation. You can also get an insured mortgage. So basically, the mortgage lending rules stipulate that you have to have an insured mortgage if you're in a what they would call a high loan to value mortgage. So functionally, what that
so anything 8%.
Sorry, I'm just gonna
overlapping because the lag.
Yeah, I'm just gonna pause and try and go to a better spot in my house. Give me a second here. Yeah, so maybe start from the top there. So what was you went to get a mortgage and then they asked you for 2 years of tax returns because you're self-employed, and you also learned that if you want to buy with less than 20% down, you have to get an insured mortgage. So you're asking what does CMHC stand for? It's like Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation. So that's actually taxpayers. So like you'd be insuring your own mortgage as a taxpayer, but CMHC is actually playing less of a role in insuring mortgages right now because they increased their insurance rate early on when they had that really bearish outlook on Canadian real estate, which was objectively quite wrong. They thought prices were going to come down like 18 to 24%. So, it would have been a bad look for them to stay in the market if they felt that was going to be the case. So Genworth, which is, it was owned by Brookfield. I can't remember what the company name is now that has taken over, but that's like a private insurer. So they sort of covered that role of CMHC where a lot of lenders were losing it. And then there's also Canada Guarantees, which is another mortgage insurer.
True. And I guess the point of the insurance is just to protect you or protect the lender if you default.
Yeah, basically to protect the lender, not you. So if you default, basically they'll cover your payments until the house sells when you're in power of sale.
True.
So
yeah. And it's baked into your mortgage too, right?
Yeah. So what they do is they'll actually take that fee and they'll add it to your principal. So remember early on, I think it was maybe the first episode or second episode when I was talking about like how if you buy with 5% down, you actually are only getting 1% or less than 1% equity.
Yeah.
That's how? Because the CMHC premium is like 4%, right?
Yeah.
So if you buy a house and then you pay your 4% CMHC and that's added to the top, and you only put 5% down, your equity just got watered down, right? So it's a one-time fee and it's added to the principal of the house.
Yes. And we can come back to this in a couple points because I want to talk about it, because I think I'm only going to put 5% down so that I can keep the cash to invest back into the property. And I want to get your thoughts on it.
Sure.
But the third thing I learned was it doesn't really matter how much cash you have up front unless it's significant and you can buy the whole property. But you get approved for a mortgage amount based on your income level.
Yeah.
So even though I have like assets and cash, I'm only approved for 400K mortgage financing. And that's based off an average income of 2 years, self-employed, of 90K Canadian.
Right.
And so like I have other assets and cash in my corporate account, in my personal account, etc. But it doesn't matter because that's like my income level.
Yeah.
Which was pretty interesting to learn because like the more you write off as when you're self-employed, like the lower your income is. And so the less you'll qualify for. So if you're trying to buy a property, that's something that you really need to keep in mind.
Yeah. Now there are methods to sort of circumvent that, let's say. Like you could go to a monoline lender, like a more expensive lender, maybe B-side, like a credit union, who might underwrite you on your gross income rather than your net income. Because like as an agent, my net income's pretty low. I have to spend a lot of money every year, but my gross would represent really well on a mortgage application. So you can kind of fiddle around a little bit there, and that's why I'll encourage a lot of people to go to a broker so that they know what the options are. And then also, I think one of the other advantages is your credit only gets pulled once when you go to a broker, and they can send it to all the different lenders, right?
What do you mean a broker?
Like a mortgage broker. So there's like bank mortgage agents, or like at the bank. So basically, an agent would go to or would work exclusively for one lender. So there's like in-house mortgage specialists at CIBC or TD or whatever, or Meridian if you want to talk credit union, or Duca or whatever. Or you can go to a broker and they can just bring your application to all of those different lenders and shop around for the best deal for you.
Yeah, true. Well, yeah, like I mean, I went to a broker, so maybe there are alternative ways. This one just didn't go through them with me.
Yeah. Well, what they'll probably do is like when you actually get closer to purchasing and you have a financing condition and a property tied up, they'll explain to you which lenders might work best for you. And then you can see, okay, yeah, this one might give me a little bit higher leverage, but the rate's more or whatever, right?
Yeah.
It is pretty standardized though. Like it almost is just shopping for the best rate. Like you can't really get more leverage unless they change your underwriting on your income, because they have to meet debt service coverage ratios. So you have to have like you're not supposed to spend more than a certain percentage, I think 36% GDS on your income, right? And that's gross debt service and total GDS and TDS. And those ratios, like all lenders have to fit within those ratios, except like private lenders who do whatever they want, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The fourth thing I learned was you don't pay land transfer tax on your first home as long as it's under 500K. So this like will only ever be probably maximum like 8K, 8 to 9K.
Yeah, I think it maxes out at 4K. Like there's a cap. It's a Canadian tax rebate program.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it's provincial, but there's a rebate. In Ontario, it would be up to 4K. If you're buying in Toronto, they have a municipal one because they have two separate taxes in Toronto.
Yeah.
And so you would get a rebate on your Toronto tax as well.
Yeah, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
Sure. The next kind of thing, which was just a realization. So the fifth thing is just buying what you can comfortably afford. Like I am a privileged individual in the sense that if I asked my parents to co-sign a property, they probably would. But then I would just end up having to pay a higher amount on a monthly basis to own that home. So unless you have like a family, friend / lender who's going to help you out at the beginning and help you out on the down payment as well as the monthly payment for your mortgage, you're best just to like lock in something that you can comfortably afford. So like a property at around 400K, putting 5% down, I'd be paying around $1,700 a month. And that's something that's like a price point that I feel confident that I'd be able to pay on a monthly basis if that property wasn't rented out, for example.
Right. Yeah, I think the other element that is worth thinking about is like what your rate might be on renewal, right? A lot of people like miss that, whether or not there's like, okay, if you're getting a mortgage, $700,000 mortgage today, I think Mortgage Jake put these on Twitter the other day. It was like, if you have to renew if you're getting it at 1.5 today, your mortgage payment's like $1,800 or whatever, $2,200. But if you're renewing at 3,000, all of a sudden you're house poor, right? Like, because your mortgage is going to be $3,000, $4,000, and you've adjusted over the 5-year period to a lifestyle paying, an $1,800 or $2,200 mortgage. So that's the reason the stress test is in place. It might be worth like looking at what the stress test amount is.
Yeah, that's
like
a
what
good
the
point.
payment amount would be on the stress test. Like, I think the stress test.
Yeah, and by renewing, by renewing, do you have to renew it every 5 years, or how does it work?
Yeah, 5 is typically the longest term you can get.
Yeah, interesting. So if rates change in that 5 years, like you could end up being pretty fucked.
Yeah, you could. Well, like, and the reality is like rates are already moving up. So, I think it's worth expecting that they'll be higher. Otherwise, like, it seems like the government's kind of trying to cap inflation by increasing bond yields. And not supposed to be independent of the government, but taking some money out of the economy and then seeing where we can land to try and slow things down a little bit, because the growth is sort of running away. So, it might be best to assume, okay, let's say, okay, I get through my first mortgage term fine, everything's good. What happens in 5 years if I'm requalifying at 5%, right?
Damn, yeah.
So
I never
I'd
really thought about that.
I'd look at nobody thinks about it. People just think about what's the payment today, right? It's how we're trained in Canada. It's like your car payment, whatever, right? But
yeah, but why? Like, nobody really talks about it, I guess. Like, I literally just heard about it now. Like, it says 5-year fix, so yeah, you can assume that after 5 years something will happen. But everyone thinks if it says fixed, then you're secured.
I think it's most people think fixed is clear, like that you're paying that rate for 5 years, but I don't think a lot of people think about it, because most people think of housing as like, I'm going to buy it today, probably sell it by the time or like that's my exit strategy. But I don't know if these are things that are worth really considering now, because if rates continue to rise, the housing market will slow, so your growth might slow, like the potential growth, right? That's why I always prioritize on the investment side of things, yield first, right? Like, if you're investing, don't speculate, don't buy as like a stock, buy it like like an investment, a cash flowing investment or a dividend investment.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, that brings me to my next point, which was, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts here. For your first investment, it might be better to do the fix and flip method instead of holding on to it.
Yeah, the only challenge is like there is market risk associated with that. But if you're trying to buy with a 95% loan to value and add value to the house, yeah, you're going to have to get a house that you live in and go room by room and renovate over the course of a year, maybe 2 years, whatever, to to maybe help on the capital gain side of things, and and maybe amass more cash than you would in a more traditional investment. I see real estate as a passive investment, so I don't want to take on investments that are active, right? Adding value, things that are going to take a ton of my time. I'd rather focus on going out into doing my job day to day than renovating a house. But again, if you're partnering on the project with somebody who has that skill set, then there's a lot of value in that too, right?
Yeah, and then there was the whole thing, like, one, you can put 5% down and use the rest of your saved cash to invest in the property. And then 2 is you can actually get the purchase plus improvements mortgage, which allows you to like add X amount to your mortgage financing.
Yeah, I mean, that's tough. Like, I personally have never seen a purchase plus improvement deal, and everybody asks about them. Maybe your
Yeah,
broker, maybe things are different in BC. Maybe your broker's an expert on those types of mortgages, but it is pretty rare to see a purchase plus
tough.
improvement mortgage.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah, because it's like it looks like an ideal scenario on paper, but like, will it actually go through? I don't know.
That's the challenge, right? So that's why, I like advising people to purchase income property. And I think for young people right now, like that gets you the real estate. Like you don't have to, you're not strapping yourself to a liability and trying to renovate your way out of it or whatever. Like there is market risk associated with fixing and flipping a house, because like if you buy a house today at market value and you're in it for a year, you're, you know, and maybe the market starts to decline or growth slows or whatever, your ability to add value gets stifled by that, right? Whereas with
Yeah,
an investment, like a cash flowing investment, more of the value is associated with the income that it earns, right? So as long as the income grows and like you can legally turn up rent per inflation, um, you would go sort of, you would grow with the rental market and the rental prospects of that property. So
true. Yeah, it
mhm.
makes sense. Interesting. Yeah, go ahead.
Do you have any, I was just going to say, like from a fix and flip perspective, I know you sent me a property and then there's a couple other ones that I was looking at sort of in your area. Um, Anything you want to send over that we can review right now? And then I can show you a couple of the income properties that I've been looking at, since that was sort of like the first one that a lot of people were interested in. I pulled up a couple of nice ones.
Hmm.
And
I
like
don't really have any.
mortgage side.
No, that's it. That's it for the mortgage stuff. The last point, the seventh point, I guess, was just I played with the fact or the just the thought and consideration of doing a new build for the first investment. But after talking to a mortgage broker, basically impossible to get financing for a new build. They want you to have like basically all the cash up front, pay for everything, and then
They,
they'll like retrospectively
yeah. Yeah. So that's like
release
how a construction mortgage
draws of
would work.
money.
Like you have to be able to get it to a certain point. Like, so as an example, like have your building envelope and then they'll give you the money back. So you paid out of pocket to get it that far
Yeah.
and they'll give you the money back. And then, okay, next phase. So it's like phases, right?
Yeah, and they don't price anything lower than $350 a square foot out here. So like even though my partner is in construction and can build things for a lot less than that,
Yeah.
they still won't like price anything lower than that.
Does that assumption
Um,
change when you look at like buying some of these prefab things, like those prefab A-frames? Like, do those companies have in-house financing?
I don't know, might be something to look
'Cause,
at, but I'm not
yeah,
sure.
I know in Canada, or sorry, in Ontario, you're also in Canada, big country. That there's a lot of these guys who are doing prefab houses. They'll finance you the house, right? So the more that you're kind of buying the lot and then paying for the approvals, like entitlements and building permits, and then
Yeah.
once that's there, then they'll show up. You pour your foundation, they'll show up with the prefab house, put it there, and you finance it off of them. And then once it's done, you can take the whole thing out with a regular mortgage, right? So anyway, it's a
Hmm.
pretty sophisticated strategy. Like it's not super easy to execute, but the margins are good, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't have any fix and flip examples.
Okay.
I do have a few more income property examples though out here that I think we're leaning closer towards, like at the 500K mark. But we can maybe talk about that after going through your
Yeah, or
Quebec
even if you want
examples.
to, I guess the only thing that's worth mentioning that kind of is a segue from mortgages into investment properties, like income properties, is that you're pretty, unless you're going to live in one of the units, like if it's a duplex and you're going to live in one of the units, it's going to be tough for you to get
Ooh,
a 95% loan to value. But maybe that's how you blend together multiple strategies, right? Maybe that's where you go, okay, yeah, I'm going to buy a duplex. I'm going to live upstairs. I'm going to renovate that upstairs. And then maybe I'll move the tenant who's downstairs into the upper unit. And then I'll go renovate the downstairs. You've accomplished a lot of goals. You have an income property. You have a property that you've added value to. You were able to get your higher leverage point with the 5% down. So you're in a better cash position. So that might be something worth thinking. And I thought from the beginning we'd sort of end up with a blend of strategies because I think that it's the easiest way to de-risk it, right? It's almost like diversifying your exits so that you're not,
Yeah.
you're eliminating the ability for you to get trapped, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we would and are going to have to do some sort of blend because we definitely want to put 5% down. I think the goal would be to find a duplex or build a duplex of some kind if
Right.
it doesn't already exist. And right now, just because of the market that we're in, anything that we're buying around the 400K mark is going to need some improvements.
Right. Yeah, and I would say like bang for your buck, you can do really well by buying, at least where I am, like a raised bungalow that has an unfinished basement and you put in the basement suite. Like there, I'm doing it on a triplex that we have right now. We're adding a fourth unit to it, and like, it's going to cost us maybe 50 grand to put a suite in the basement, but like the market is commanding $250,000 per unit right now, right? Like if I were to sell a duplex, I'd get 250, well, more than that, I'd probably get 350 a unit right now. So if I had a unit, I put 50 grand in, I'm getting 6 times the return for the cash that I have to outlay, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, yeah. So I'll switch over to screen share here, and we can kind of just go through a couple of these properties. Is my audio lagging? Like, does it have latency? I'm getting like a little bit on the way back, like on my side here.
It's lagging like a tiny bit sometimes,
Okay.
but
All right.
not always. Like right now, it's fine.
Okay. I'm just gonna switch over here.
But the screen share might make it lag more, so I'll let you know.
Yeah, let's see.
Ooh.
So this is in Moncton. We had a request for Moncton, so I figured I'd take a look at a couple. This seems like pretty well market standard. You can get stuff from 2 to 3 for like a duplex. Do a little bit of a cap rate calculation on this here.
Can you exit the CoStar export? Is that your astrology signs, or what is CoStar?
CoStar is like they're like a commercial real estate database.
Okay, because it's also like an astrology app. So I thought you were just like
no, not
becoming super spiritual and into your
no.
signs.
Yeah, so I like this, like from an income perspective. I don't know if you want to practice your own calculation of a cap rate, but this one's pretty clean because it's the tenants pay their own heat and hydro. So you're making 19,405 a year, and you divide that. You could pull your taxes out if you wanted. Like they actually have
yeah, right here,
expenses there, so you can get a pretty solid calculation. I don't know if you want to do it on your side. So
what is it? It would be.
So your effective gross income, your EGI is 19,405
minus 1240. So 18,165. And then divided by the 219. Oh, what's that?
That's insurance and taxes. So
minus
taxes should be in here. Maybe not. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's in the water bill and taxes is 1240. So maybe subtract that 600 from your income as well.
Yeah, 17,565.
And then assume you get it at asking price. So assume you get it for 220,000 and see what the cap rate is. Should be close to a 10, like an 8 between 8 and 10.
19. Yeah, an 8, 7.98.
Yeah, I mean that's a decent cap from my perspective. It's a good annual return. And
yeah, that's pretty good.
The other qualitative components here, roof is only 5 years old, spray foam insulation on the basement walls. Like they've done some good updates here. So, it's a product that you can be relatively comfortable with.
Moncton, eh?
Yeah,
that's cool.
The only challenge with New Brunswick is you pay a double land transfer tax if you're out of province. So that's one of the things worth being mindful of.
Oh.
Your purchase price goes up a bit. And tax isn't something you can add to your mortgage, right? So that's cash off the bat. There's really no way around it. Not that like you should be looking for ways around stuff, but isn't really a way. This is my baby. This is the one I was telling you about. Isn't that a glorious building?
Is this Quebec City?
Quebec City, triplex. Look at the interior. Like this kind of thing, it's gonna make you want to move to Quebec City. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Oh, look at that. Look at the brick.
I know.
Shit.
Yeah,
wait, is that a fireplace? What is that?
It would have been a fireplace. I'm not sure what purpose it serves now. It could actually still be a fireplace. I don't know if those wood doors would be wet certified, but yeah, it's
a little bit of it was like
that's a basement
oven. Wow.
Too. Like absolutely
gorgeous. Look at the light in there.
I know.
Are you kidding? That's so nice.
Right? So you want to just buy this with me and call it a day?
Probably. I just don't know if I'm ever going to be able to be in Quebec.
Whatever.
Who are you? What is
it? It's fully tenanted. Nice triplex. You could Airbnb one suite if you wanted, like down the road,
100%. Yes.
Based on the if you look here, you see the building beside it is actually about a story taller. So you could technically probably do a top up if you wanted, if it was engineerable and structurally secure enough. You could probably get away with that. Like from my perspective, this is a really good deal.
Yeah. So tell me.
I lost that Cobden deal, by the way, the duplex. Somebody else got it.
Oh no.
But so we're gonna go after this.
How many units are in this one?
It's a triplex, 3 units, and I'd try and get a top up. I'd probably try and put an extra story on there with a 4th unit. And it makes $24K a year. So cap's a little bit lower than the other ones. Maybe, I don't mean, what's that, like a high 6 cap?
Yeah, 24K.
24 divided by 350.
Yeah, 6.8 or 6.9.
Yeah. Lucky number. It's a good, it's a beautiful, beautiful site. I love this.
That is very nice. I would live there.
Yeah, same. And like, that's
like,
if you want to start
from the actual city?
What's that?
How far is it from the actual city?
I don't know. We can look that up. I think there's a map here.
Yeah, it should be under the neighborhood section. Oh wow, there's a huge hole in my sock.
Yeah, I mean, it looks pretty.
Oh wow, close to the river.
Pretty well situated.
To a park. Oh my god.
Right?
Yeah, definitely jump all over that.
Okay, let's do this deal.
That's wild. I love that.
Yeah. I'm gonna run after this one. I love the building, so let's see what else I got here. I got another duplex in Quebec City. This is what really like made me think, okay, this is a 2 units and it's an up and down duplex for $300,000. Mm-hmm. You spend an extra $50,000, you get a better location and a better suite, right? So
yeah, like where is this one at?
Location here. It's out by the highway. So like apples to oranges from a location perspective, right?
Yeah, like you're out there.
Yeah. And like this is like literally closer to drive to than like Thunder Bay, but from a management perspective.
Yeah, straight up. Yeah. And it's way more desirable to live in Quebec City.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that the longevity as like Quebec City's really got that like appeal. It's got the tourism. It's got like there's a lot of potential growth from my perspective as like a place for young Canadian people to move. Before COVID, it was actually rated the best place in Canada for millennials to live because there was like a lot of work in the tourism industry, etc. So
yeah.
So I tried to find some stuff in Penticton below the price target, but it's only condos, I think. Except
Yeah,
is this no, this is a condo.
Mobile home probably.
And then
Yeah, there's not much.
yeah,
There's
so
not
here's like
much.
kind of condo thing, but still like
Yeah, age 12 plus.
I like this, and I found two in Cornwall that are pretty decent. One of the advantages, this is like a little nuance that's worth thinking about. Maybe I'll actually even record this on video. But I've noticed that if you go to realtor.ca and um, sorry, I think I've paused the screen share, right?
No, or I don't know. Are you scrolling? Yeah, it's like frozen.
Yeah, I paused it. Oh, there's stop share. So if you go to realtor.ca, if you want to find good duplexes, I think this is almost like a little bit of a arbitrage on like how different real estate boards are laid out. So basically, if you search by commercial rather than residential, so go to realtor.ca, search your price, and then go to commercial listings, and you're
Yeah.
actually more likely to come up with the income properties like multifamily residential, because in certain real estate boards, those are considered to be commercial property. So like a duplex, yeah.
That is interesting. I've cruised the commercial side a little bit just to see what's going on, but I haven't really taken a deep dive. So I'll check.
Well, like this is where I'm finding like a lot of these duplexes that aren't even listed on the residential, and like your average buyer that you're going to be competing against, because we're in such an excess demand market, and you're already seeing like crazy cap rate suppression in places like Cornwall. Like some of these duplexes that I was looking at like a month ago are, they've already gone up, like, and the cap rates are coming down, like the returns are coming down, prices are going up, right? So from my perspective, you kind of got to find where there's like a little bit of an arbitrage, and it seems like there's fewer people. So anyway, this one in Cornwall, I like. There's two of them on the same street. Like, so if you're an investor looking to purchase two to simplify your management, there's two. They're vertical separation. So you've got basically a semi-detached, separate meters. The rents are all right, but separate meters, furnaces.
Question.
Yeah.
Why is this called a side-by-side duplex and not a semi-detached?
It's functionally a semi-detached, but because they're on the same lot, it's 2 units on one lot. So that's a duplex. So it's like 2 residences on one property, whereas a semi-detached is 2 properties that have a wall that joins them. 2 separate properties versus 2 separate units.
Understood. Okay. And I know I asked you this. I don't know if you have the answer right now, but could you technically sell one side of the duplex?
So this one, like, actually, I'll show you. Let me just pause the screen share here because I just don't want people to see my login for this tool. But basically, you can go on land registry and see if it's possible to get a lot severance. So basically, lots are divided. So when the same person owns 2 conjoined lots, over time the pins merge. That's a pin. Pin is property identification number. So there's a different way to distinguish property, which is at the municipal level, and that's assessment parcels. So there's like a handful of different groups of people who have different ways of looking at the lot lines of your property. So I'm just going to see if I can get into Geo Warehouse here. I might not be able to, honestly, because I'm having some login issues. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to pull it up. But what I'll do is maybe we can do a follow-up piece of content here. And I'll just do like a quick walkthrough on my phone of kind of what that would look like. But so this has 2 municipal addresses. So the municipality, probably the assessment parcel, would consider them 2 separate properties. And you could go through the process of severing those, but I'm guessing that they share water. We'll have to see, but that's where the challenges would happen. I'm doing it in Jackson's Point right now with my triplex. We're adding the 4th unit, and then there's a wall so it's a semi-detached that has 2 separate addresses, but there's only one water line and sewer line. So in order for the municipality to say, yes, you have two separate properties here, and for you to be able to basically sell one side off, you would need it to be fully separated on municipal services. So you could be dealing with the same phenomenon here. Again, like not something needs to be done right away, but maybe a worthwhile capital improvement to think of in the future if you want to increase the value of the property so you can borrow more equity or sell one side like you're describing or whatever it is, right?
Definitely. And I'm curious, like,
go ahead, sir.
If you're, this is just hypothetical, but if you're doing a new build and the lot is already zoned for duplex building, would it be worth just right off the bat investing in like a separate water line and whatever else to
depends.
Get that separation?
I would see what the costs are going to be. Because if you're building a duplex, you might have a reduced development charge. Because remember, like development charges exist. That's basically like a tax that municipalities charge you for the privilege of building a property, right? So in Georgina, where I do like a lot of business, that's like between $60,000 and $90,000 per unit, right? So they just have to pay a tax, literally, like just for permission to build.
Yeah.
If they're gonna charge you 2 development charges anyway for building a duplex, yeah, you might as well ask for 2 lots out of it because it is going to give you some increased equity in the deal.
Yeah.
But objectively, yeah, sometimes it's more headaches than it's worth. So it really varies deal by deal, and that's why it's important to have a good agent and somebody who has like good understanding of the local zoning and etc. Because you want to have an understanding of what you can do and like where you can add value, create value, etc.
Right.
Yeah. Let me just see if I have any other properties that I pulled up here. No, there's just those Cornwall ones and that Moncton. Yeah, so I just wanted to explore a couple of different towns where you can find like I've actually been blown away literally since we started this process like a couple of weeks ago. Cap rates are just like getting smoked, like values are going sky high. People are like just rushing to buy Canadian real estate, and like I wrote a blog about it a couple of weeks ago, like how a lot of investors were flocking, and my guys are always early, right? Like they're pretty smart guys, a lot of the investors that I work with. So I saw this phenomenon coming, and that's why I wanted to get into something in a fringe market early. But like I feel like I might have missed the boat here.
Yeah, well, you and me both.
Yeah. Anything else you want to touch on before we wrap up?
I don't think so. No, that was good.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. All right. So I'll post all these listings on Insta. We didn't really get much video content or anything done. Like I didn't, because I wasn't really very well set up, just given how crazy everything is. But we'll try and maybe make some excess content. Maybe we could even do like a FaceTime or something, and just screen record or something like that. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, I also do want to make a couple videos and like get them posted on TikTok, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, just let me know what I can do to help. Like if you need me to do those screen recordings, little like 30-second videos or whatever, chatting about stuff.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, I think I'll just make one with whatever login.
I might just start posting
and then I'll shoot you.
Like, anybody want to buy this with me? Like, start a fund.
You'll probably get people coming at you. Yeah, especially on Twitter. I feel like you're a Twitter king.
Maybe, yeah. Call on that Quebec City one, see if I can figure something out, and I'll circle back with like potentially a actually tied up deal soon.
Yeah, let me know how that goes. That one looks sick. That's a good investment for sure. One sec, I want to introduce you to Jared.